Hi, good day everyone. Welcome to my video, and today I'm gonna tell you a story called Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. Hope you like it, and here we go. The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen. One day, in the cottages, it snowed and was nearly quite dark, and the last evening of the year. In this cold and darkness, there went along the street a poor little girl, bareheaded and with naked feet. When she left home, she had slippers on, but they were very large slippers, and the poor little girl lost them as she scuffled away across the street, because of two carriages that rolled by dreadfully fast. One slipper was nowhere to be found. The other had been laid hold by Andersen, and off he ran with it. So the little maiden walked on her teeny naked feet, that were quite red and blue from cold. She carried many matches in an old apron, and she held a bundle of them in her hand. Nobody had bought anything from her the whole livelong day. No one had given her a single farthing. She crept along trembling with cold and hunger, a very picture of sorrow. The flakes of snow covered her long hair, which fell in beautifully curls around her neck. But of that, of course, she never once thought. From all the window, the candles were gleaming, and it smelled so deliciously of roscoes. For you know, it was New Year's Eve. In a corner formed by two houses, of which one advanced more than the other, she seated herself down and cowered together. Her little feet had drawn close up to her, but she grew colder and colder. To go home she didn't venture, for she hadn't sold any matches and couldn't bring farthing of money. From her father she would certainly get blows, and at home it was cold too, for above she had only the roof, through which the wind whistled, even though the largest cracks were stopped up with straw and rags. Her little hands were almost numbed with cold. Oh, a match might offer her a world of comfort, if she only dared to take one out the bundle, throw it against the wall, and warm her fingers by. She drew one out. Screech! How it blazed! How it burns! It was warm, bright flame, like a candle, as she held her hands over it. It was wonderful night. It seems really to be a little maiden as though she were sitting before a large icon stove with burnished brass feet and a brass ornamented top. The fire burned with such blessed influence. It warmed so delightfully. The little girl had already stretched out her feet to warm them too, but the small flame went out, the stove vanished. She had only the remains of burnt-out match in her hand. She rubbed another against the wall. It burned brightly, and when the light fell on the wall, there the wall became transparent, like a veil, so that she could see into the room. On the table was spread a snow-white tablecloth. Upon it was plated porcelain service, and the roast goose was steaming famously with its stuffing of apple and dried plums. And what was still more capital to behold was the goose hop down from the dish, reeled about the floor with knife and fork in its breast, till it came up to the poor little girl, when the match went out, and nothing but the thick, cold, damp wall was left behind. She lighted another match. Now there she was sitting under the most magnificent Christmas tree. It was still larger and more decorated than the ones which she had seen through the closed door in the rich merchant's house. Thousands of lights were burning on the green branches, and gaily colored pictures, such as she had seen in the shop windows, looked down upon her. The little maiden stretched out her hands toward them when the match went out. The light of the Christmas tree rose higher and higher. She saw them now as stars in heaven. One fell and formed a long trail of fire. "Someone is just dead," said the little girl, for her old grandmother, the only person who had loved her, and who was now no more, had told her that when a star falls, a soul ascends to God. She threw another match against the wall. It was again light, and in the lustre there stood the old grandmother, so bright and radiant, so mild, and with such an expressions of love. "Grandmother!" cried the little one. "Oh, take me to you! You go away when the match burns out. You vanish like the warm stove, like the delicious roscoes, and like the magnificent Christmas tree." And she rubbed the whole bundle of match quickly against the wall, for she wanted to be quite sure of keeping her mother near her. And the matches gave such a brilliant light that it was brighter than a noonday. Never formerly had the grandmother been so beautifully and so tall. She took a little maiden on her arms, and flew in a brightness and joy so high, so very high. And then above was neither cold, nor hunger, nor anxiety. They were with God. But in the corner, at the cold hour of dawn, sat the poor girl, with rosy cheeks and with a smiling mouth, leaning against the wall, frozen to death on the last evening of the old year. Stiff and stark sat the child there with her matches, of which one bundle had been burned. She wanted to warm herself, people said. No one had the slightest suspicion what beautiful things she had seen. No one even dreamed of the splendor in which, with her grandmother, she had entered on the joys of New Year. And the question is, what is the correlations, what the connections between this story with Ukadewi core value? So I think this story has a connection with Ukadewi core values number 4, which is service to the world. Because I think that some part in this story there are explain the lack of the public concern for the little girl. So it reminds me of the Ukadewi core value number 4, because as a human we should help each other, and we cannot ignore someone who need our help. So that's the little match girl story and the correlations with the Ukadewi core value. I hope the story can teach us a lesson that in life we must be sensitive to our surroundings and help others in need. Thank you.